of this ordinance, and to such end the provisions and sections of this ordinance are declared to be severable. Section 8, the ordinance herein enacted is an appropriation ordinance and therefore is effective immediately.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Motion to adopt, second. Discussion?
Those top two numbers, the first two you read off, what, the grant special revenue fund, what is that?
Which, first two?
3501, 3502. 19,000. Second one. What is that for?
How many want
The $19,847.10 is a grant that Smithson and got that must be used for law enforcement only. And then the $49,905.19 is that Homeland Security grant that they're using to buy the radios and some of the equipment for 911.
So that's
Both
grant-
of them are grants through.
That's a grant going in?
Yes. And all it is, the only thing, you see them there, and then they're again on the last page.
Section 6.
And the only thing they're doing on the last page is actually putting them into a line item so the money can be spent.
All right, that's what I want.
This is strictly setting up the fund,
Okay.
and then we have to put them in the line items where they can be spent.
There's a deadline, but these have to be.
Actually, they're spent, and we're already starting to get reimbursement money back. We've already got some of the reimbursement back on them. They had to be done by the end of July.
Okay, any other discussion? Ralph?
Chairman, what is the progress on the airport?
Judy, I guess you'd be the correct one to address that.
We're 90% completion right now. We got 50% reimbursement last month in July. And right now, we're just kind of setting like the college starts back up their heavy equipment class the next week, Monday, when school starts back up. And we're kind of got everything on hold until the heavy equipment class starts up on Monday to do the dirt work, and then the contractor come in and do the final siding, seating, and punch list items once the college gets done. But it's basically just been on hold waiting on college. And I would like to say about the college, on our 50% completion date, to that point they had done $175,000 of in-kind services. So their heavy equipment class has just been great for us. And so it's really helped. It's basically that. We should have the whole grant. It's 90%. And as soon as they get in there, they said it'd take, Don Thompson said, about 2 weeks to finish up what they have, and then less than a week for the others. So hoping to have it all completed and get all the money returned by the end of the month, or pushing it maybe the first week of September.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on this 911, where is the limit on this? Every time I'm exposed to it, it has the word increased in front of it. Here we're looking at another $60,000. We're crowding $500,000 on this 911 fund.
Okay, who wants to respond to that?
I'll be glad to. This money is their money. It's dedicated to 911. It's going to be in their budget regardless. This money will be used to, the judge and I had talked this over a month ago, I think it was, and decided that we would have money there now so we could make payments in progress when these contractors start their work of installing this new equipment.
This is the cell phone, the phone fees and charges held in Little Rock. What's the fees?
From the
Combination of the two.
The excess commission and the carriers.
Like he said, it's dedicated money. It can't be used anywhere else, period.
Now, what, this additional carryovers, that was additional carryovers in our budget?
No,
in there.
one.
Anything else? else, Ralph? Okay, thank you. Anybody, any of our guests want to comment before we vote on this? Yes.
I have a question, Mark. When it mentions miscellaneous spending, what is that? Do you get a written outline of what miscellaneous actually means? Do you know how much it is and what it's for? Miscellaneous law enforcement expenditures and miscellaneous, what does that mean?
Can you help us there, Tommy?
I can. On that, basically, on those grants, they are giving you the right or the privilege to decide what you want to spend it on, rather than them saying, this must be spent to buy a gun. They just give it as a miscellaneous grant, and then you have to actually send them a letter requesting that it be spent for a specific item, and then they approve it, and then you can spend it. But when they appropriate, or when they actually appropriate the money, they use the word miscellaneous rather than saying it has to be spent for a car, or it has to be spent for a gun. It's just, but it does specifically say it has to be used in law enforcement, but it can be miscellaneous law enforcement. Because, like I say, our county might need the radios. Newton County might need a car, you know, or whatever, so they just do it with that.
And there are some that come through that says, you gotta buy gas, or
There
something
is.
else,
There
that are very
Exactly.
specific. So this just, like Tommy's saying, gives us a little leeway on it. It's not miscellaneous out, it's miscellaneous in.
But they still have to approve it before you buy it. And they usually do have a list, these things will not be approved. And down below give you a list of things that will not be approved. You know there's no need to send that one in, if that's what you're needing.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, would you please call the roll?
Alan Bailey? Robert Meek?
Yes.
Dan Roberts?
Yes.
David Johnson?
Yes?
Sam Kinsley?
Yes.
James Whitener?
Yes.
Bob Parkhill?
Yes.
Ralph Gwynn?
Yes.
Ann Kimes? Yes. Jay Lawrence?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The appropriation ordinance passes. Next, we have a resolution. Do I hear a motion to adopt this resolution? Excuse me, to read this resolution, excuse me.
I'd make a motion to read it.
Okay? Second? Second. Okay, do you want to read it in entirety or by title only?
I believe this first page here could be read in entirety.
First page, okay. Does anybody object?
We won't read the next sentence. I didn't think of
We
that.
got a speed reader?
Who wants to read this one? You, Crystal, or you want to get somebody else? Okay, go ahead.
Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Boone, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution adopting certain tax compliance, thanks and glasses, procedures to be followed in connection with each issuance of tax exemption bonds by the county and prescribing other matters relating thereto. Whereas Boone County, Arkansas, the county, has in past and will in the future issue tax exemption bonds, and whereas the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, the code requires that certain things be done following the issuance of such tax exempt bonds in order to maintain the statute of the bond under code. And whereas the Internal Revenue Service has advised issuers that they should have in place written procedures for handling post-issuance compliance. Therefore, be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Boone County, Arkansas, Section 1, post-issuance tax compliance procedures attached to this resolution as Exhibit A are hereby adopted effective as the date of this resolution shall be applicable to all tax exempt bonds that have previously been issued and all tax exemption bonds that are to be issued in the future. Section 2, the county judge is hereby authorized and directed to take all action necessary to implement the post-issuance tax compliance procedures.
Okay, do I hear a motion to adopt? Okay, motion, second to adopt. I'd like to start off, Dan Bowers is here. Dan, would you want to kind of give us a thumbnail outline of what this does?
Well, I just stated basically the IRS has been wanting tax exempt bond issuers to have written procedures in place to ensure compliance with the requirements so that the bonds can continue to be tax exempt. And this basically does that, so that you all have written procedures. The benefit of it, the potential benefits of it are, one, just make sure that you do have a procedure in place. Be sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do when you issue taxes and bonds. Secondly, it maybe reduces your audit risk. The IRS has a form that you have to fill out, and they now have a box. And they ask you if you have written post-issuance tax compliance procedures. If you pass this, you will be able to check that box, and you'll be happy. The second thing is there's some indication that those issuers who do have written procedures may obtain more favorable treatment if they ever do actually have some incident where
Okay, thank you, Dan. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Byers has given us a critique of this. However, I've read this a couple of times, and it's pretty well detailed. But if what he had to say is good enough for everybody else, I'm fine with it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Any discussion among our guests tonight? Yes, Karen?
One question, who is our designated compliance officer?
I believe it designates the county judge.
County judge,
Oh, so you would ask this question. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Bill?
Judge, I guess I'm confused. Y'all adopted an agenda. My agenda says post-issuance tax compliance procedure for Hillcrest Nursing Home. Have I got the wrong agenda? Or we're not supposed to change the agenda once you've adopted it?
Now, what's
know.
wrong with this?
It came on the internet, August 13th. Submitted by Alan Mayhew. Was that a mistake?
If you'd like me to speak to that, basically, part of what has generated this is the bonds that were recently issued in regard to Hillcrest Home, but it would also apply to any other bonds that are issued.
But I don't know, seems kind of funny. We didn't discuss Hillcrest, and it's submitted by Alan Mayhew. And I don't know. I guess is that the way we do things?
Bill, I'm not exactly following you. I mean, what?
Well, I guess the agenda didn't say anything about the hospital. It says Hillcrest Nursing Home.
Well, that's what we're talking about, Hillcrest, yes.
We're talking about Hillcrest.
There were bond issued a couple of weeks ago for Hillcrest for that expansion, yeah.
Well, okay. I certainly didn't follow that.
Okay.
My fault.
You have no liability.
Okay. Any other discussion about the Hillcrest resolution?
It's not just for tax exempt bond. It says tax compliant procedures for tax exempt bonds for Hillcrest Nursing Home and any other tax exempt bonds that might be issued. This is just generated by the most recent, I guess this has been a development where IRS wants this, and it's just a new compliance thing. If the library had come up with a bond issue or something of this same document, would have to be filed to back it up.
When you approve these bond issues, then it's just done by resolution and not an ordinance? Is that correct?
No, this is after it's done.
Yeah.
After it would be approved, and you move on along.
Right.
And then when it's time to renew them, the way I understand, then there's a certain, it said in there certain things have to be done. I could have picked a better word than things, probably
Right.
procedures, but this doesn't, I'm not maybe real clear either, but this is just generated by the most recent action. It's already been decided.
Dan,
Okay,
what
so
was the attorney's
but you
name?
approved the original Hillcrest issue was approved some time ago by
Yeah.
ordinance, is that
Yes,
correct?
I believe that's.
And now you're just saying you agree with the ordinance by this resolution, is that